Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Mirna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Isn't that the sweetest sound? That's the sound of another sale or another dollar hitting your Shopify e-commerce store. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Let me tell you about a cellular service that's saving me money every single month, and that is Mint Mobile. I switched to Mint Mobile a few months ago, and honestly, I wish I had done it sooner. But we were locked into a plan paying over $100 per month. With Mint Mobile, you get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. Yes, you heard that right. With unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/transform. That's mintmobile.com/transform.
Sure, let's dive right in. So the TDS, the total difference score, is the result of what you get when you take the Prioritize Us test. And what the TDS is, it's basically a relationship credit score. So most people don't know how to measure the strength of their relationship beyond sort of vague emotions. And this is like your relationship credit score. It instantly tells you how aligned you are, what's working, and what needs improvement. So you can get a score of 0 to 50. 0 means you're perfectly aligned, which never happens. It's like 1 in a trillion. And 50 means you view the world from basically opposite perspectives. So you're not aligned at all. You're opposite, in fact. And so the lower your score, the better your long-term outlook. And the reason it's important is because it gives you an objective way to view your relationship. And so the way the test works is it's really easy. You start with 10 priorities. So they're basically things like career, communication, entertainment, spirituality. So I identified 10 core life priorities that subsume most of the areas of life, and you just rank them 1 through 10.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Nick Brancato, personal development coach. And Nick and I are going to be talking on the topic, what is your total difference score? How to align love and life. Welcome, Nick.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk with you today.
Yes, you're very welcome. Right. I love talking about relationships. I love talking about how we can make them better because you know what? Each one of us is in some kind of relationship, whether it's with our children or spouses or, the people that we work with. And most of the times we get it wrong. In fact, I'm reading books right now about the emotional destructive marriage and, all that stuff. So yeah, there's lots of things to learn. So I love when I'm able to put out some content, and your content is very different than anyone that I've ever spoken to. So I'm glad that that we're going to be having this conversation today. All right. So
I appreciate that.
you're very welcome. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Nick Brancato is a seasoned personal development coach and educator with over 25 years of experience helping individuals and couples connect, communicate, and thrive. As the author of Prioritize Us, Nick shows how arguments can become your greatest moments of connection. Nick blends practical tools with data-driven frameworks to guide clients through life challenges, including career shifts, financial pressure, and personal growth. Nick's holistic process incorporates meditation, guided visualization, and hypnotherapy, emphasizing both emotional insight and actionable steps. By fostering deeper connections and mental clarity, Nick empowers couples to transform tension into trust, misalignment into mutual success, creating lasting, meaningful change in their relationships. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to dive right in because, like I said, I love your concept and I love your niche on this particular way that couples can, you know, make their differences into their connection. So you've got something that's called the total difference score. Tell us what that is and what it means for a relationship. Yeah, I was going through your book. I do have a copy of your book. And one of the chapters we're talking about, if you have a score of this, then it means this and stuff like that. So let's start off right away by
Okay.
by talking about that and what really does it mean, right?
Sure, let's dive right in. So the TDS, the total difference score, is the result of what you get when you take the prioritize us test. And what the TDS is, it's basically a relationship credit score. So most people don't know how to measure the strength of their relationship beyond sort of vague emotions. And this is like your relationship credit score. It instantly tells you how aligned you are, what's working, and what needs improvement. So you can get a score of 0 to 50. 0 means you're perfectly aligned, which never happens. It's like 1 in a trillion. And 50 means you view the world from basically opposite perspectives. So you're not aligned at all. You're opposite, in fact. And so the lower your score, the better your long-term outlook. And the reason it's important is because it gives you an objective way to view your relationship. And so the way the test works is it's really easy. You start with 10 priorities. So they're basically things like career, communication, entertainment, spirituality. And I identified 10 core life priorities that that subsume most of the areas of life, and you just rank them 1 through 10. So 1 being the highest priority, 10 being the lowest. And both partners do this separately, and then they compare. So it takes like less than 5 minutes. And depending on how thoughtful you are, some people take quite a while to do their rankings on their own, but it's really quick to do. And then you compare your priorities with your partners. So if I rank career as my second priority and you rank it as your fifth, the difference is a 3. So that's a reasonable difference. We're not identical, but we're not so far apart as being like a 9. So we're fairly aligned there. Sometimes we have 2 people who have very different priorities. And so when you're looking at that, you want to begin with starting with your strengths. So where are we most aligned? Because those are the pillars of your relationship. So a lot of people jump right into the differences without sort of framing the conversation in a positive light first.
Okay. Right. Yes, I like that. So, I love that. I didn't get that from, when I read the book about the credit score, but it's really true. you know, creditors look at your credit score and they don't need any more information.
Exactly.
Credit score and they form an opinion. So I love that. But yeah, but like with your credit score, if you've got a 500, there are ways that you can get it up to a 750 or whatever. So I love it. Like I said, I recognize that what you're talking about is something I hadn't heard before, but it's so good. And I like what you said about it's a natural thing. We go towards the negative. So if I'm doing this test and I've got, kids, I want 3 or 4, and my spouse puts down, I need a dozen. Not at all, right?
Yes.
You're going to go right there. Let's talk about this. But those are some of the things that you really can't change. But so, like in a credit score, they're telling you pay your bills on time, do certain things or whatever. But if you're misaligned, like that particular one, I don't want kids, you want a dozen. So what does it mean? Which is one of the things I wanted to say. What does it mean for your relationship? Let's say that you have 10 things and you're aligned with 5, and 5 of them are totally out of whack. Is there hope?
Yeah, excellent question. Yes, there's hope. There's no doomsday prophecy because you have a high score. It's just like your credit score. You can improve it. And so I love one of the things that you mentioned, which is certain things you can change and certain things are kind of deal breakers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that comes down to, I think, the difference between values and priorities. So
Mm.
priorities answer the question, what's important to me now? And they change day to day. You have seasons of different priorities. Sometimes career is most important. Then it shifts to family and relationships or some other pursuit, a passion perhaps. And so values, those are much more stable. They're like the pillars of your life. They change maybe gradually, but once you're an adult, they're mostly formed. Things like wanting kids or not. They're your core belief system. They make up who you are. So when you're evaluating a relationship, you want to see how aligned you are on the values. Those are where the biggest red flags are likely to come up because you can't change them. If I want kids and you don't, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. So your test, is it values or priorities or both?
Well, the test evaluates priorities, and priorities is actually a pretty new word. It's only like 100 years old. Values have been written about for thousands of
Yeah.
years.
From the Bible, right?
Rome, as far back as paper goes, people have been writing about values and beliefs.
Right.
But the word priorities is a modern word. Before that, there was just the word priority. One important thing, and that's how you lived your life. There was just priority. But in modern times, with communication and transportation, everybody getting so busy, everybody has priorities now, many important things. And so we're juggling them, and everybody's figuring out how to allocate their time and resources and what's most important. And if you don't sit down and ask yourself these questions, then you're going to be making decisions that you might regret in how you use your time, especially.
Yeah. When I was going through the priorities in your book, it reminded me of one years ago, maybe 20 years ago or so, when I was single. I went on to eHarmony, and eHarmony had a profile like this, like I mean, I'm not sure if it was based on values or it was based on priorities, but it asked these questions and it kind of matched you up to with somebody that had these same, links. But now I hear they don't do that no more. And you just swipe.
Yeah, it's all about the swipes now, right? It's all about attraction instead of alignment.
Yeah, all you do is swipe through and they don't have a profile thing anymore. But so, so are you suggesting this should be part of premarital counseling? Or once you're in a relationship and you see there's trouble, then maybe you go and look and see where your differences are.
So I think that any stage of a relationship, it's important. So if you do it in the beginning, then you can see important things like if I value personal growth very highly, which I do, as I know you do, then if our partner has growth in their bottom three, well, that's not likely to change unless they have some kind of major epiphany. And so this is a fundamental incompatibility that's going to be hard to change because you have different visions for your day-to-day life and your future.
Yeah.
So you'd want to know that early in a relationship. Also, there are many things that when I coach couples and talk to people in general that sort of don't come up. Sometimes things like sex and spirituality, many times deep into relationships, people haven't had real, legitimate, quality conversations around those topics. And when you're forced to number them and prioritize them, then you get to ask this beautiful question of your partner, which is why. Be curious and say, why is this so important to you? Or why is this not important to you? And then we can have context for what their lives are and their decisions will start making more sense.
Yeah. That's a good one because I personalize um I prioritize, you know, um personal development and books, but I'm not even sure if it's a priority or a value because I love to read and I've always loved to learn. So I go at life as a learner. But my partner doesn't. And I was
Mm.
I was interviewing, I was interviewing a coach the other day, and I said that to him. And he said to me, you know, my wife doesn't either. But she's, we've been married for 15 years and we're happy, and and you might prioritize that I want someone that read books, but then you get someone that read books and there's other things that's wrong. So yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a good conversation to have, because then you kind of like rank them. How is that important to me? And it really isn't, because I'm working on my personal growth. If you don't want to work in yours, then that's okay.
Absolutely. But we need to know those differences so that when you're spending time on your personal growth, I don't feel neglected,
Right.
right? Because it's not time away from me, it's time for your priority.
Right.
And vice versa. Maybe your partner favors like skill development, or they favor like building things, or they favor entertainment. And all those things can be fine. I think there's this sort of notion of equality in a relationship,
Right.
and I think it's not about equality. I think it's about equilibrium. So equality is about balance, and balance is not sustainable. Balance is a finite state, and you could get balance, but it won't last. It's going to come out of whack at some point. Equilibrium, however, is like an ecosystem. It's sustainable. So you're able to
Weights
spend
keep
time.
changing. I love that. Right. Like
Exactly.
when you're on the seesaw, right? The weights.
Yes. Yes, precisely. So it's dynamic,
Mhm.
but it's self-sustaining and it can be mutually beneficial. So if I know that personal growth is important to you, that's going to benefit me because you're going to improve as a person. You're going to
Yes.
be more interesting. You're going to have better conversations, and
Yes.
you're going to go further in your career and your aspirations.
Right.
So, right. So if I understand that about you because you can share that with me, then I have a whole new context for your life and I can find new ways to appreciate you.
Right. Yes. That's good. I like that you touched on the personal growth thing. Yeah. I was just watching a series the other day, and this girl was an editor, and she was reading books all the time, and her boyfriend was not reading any books. And then one time she came to him and says, you know, make him sound stupid, and he didn't like that at all. He actually broke it off with her, and then she had to go back begging. But yeah, I mean, it's a good conversation to have, and I love all the other things that you talk about. Yeah, spirituality. What is your feeling about sex? I mean, what is your feeling about kids? I mean, what is priority? Because I wanted to clarify that, but as a coach, even though you're not a woman, but when a woman becomes a mother, her priorities change. You know what I mean? The man, and a lot of men get all upset about it, because now he's no longer the center of her world, and her kids are the center of her world, and all these priorities change. Now she doesn't want to go to work because she wants to stay at home with her kids, and all these different things. But you're right, communication. That's why they say communication is so important in a relationship, because a lot of people don't talk about these things. It happens onto them, and then there's a big blow up, and there's feelings get hurt, and they're saying that you changed, and all these things, because they never discussed it. Very, very true. So I'm glad that you're bringing this conversation to the forefront, and that, people that are dating, people that are in marriages, that can go, yeah, I'm going to take the quiz with my husband. And we've been married 20 years.
That's awesome.
Let me tell you about a cellular service that's saving me money every single month, and that is Mint Mobile. I switched to Mint Mobile a few months ago, and honestly, I wish I'd done it sooner. But we were locked into a plan paying over $100 per month. With Mint Mobile, you get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. Yeah, you heard that right. With unlimited talk, text, and high speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. So, this summer, say bye bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. For a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month. So while your friends are sweating over data overages and surprise charges, you'll be chilling, literally and financially. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer in your 3 month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/transform. That's mintmobile.com/transform. Note, upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. I've been an entrepreneur since the early 90s, even winning the Entrepreneur of the Year award. But when I first thought of starting my business, I had the passion and the vision, but zero clue where to start when it came to selling online. This is where Shopify can help. Shopify helps you set up your digital storefront. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Mattel and Drew House to brands just getting started. Whether you're selling physical products, digital downloads, or services, Shopify has everything you need to launch, manage, and scale your business. Shopify is also packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify helps you transform your business with expertise in everything from managing inventory to processing returns. So, if you're ready to sell, you're ready to Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for $1 per month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/transform. Go to shopify.com/transform. I'm
And
sure
for
I'll learn a few
anybody
things.
you can always learn more, right?
Yeah, I can learn a few things because I've never asked the question. What do you prioritize? You know what I mean? So that's great. I love it.
And for anybody listening, they could just really quickly, just if you just jot down what are my top 3 priorities, just do it for yourself. And then after you do, ask your partner to do the same. What are my top 3 priorities? They don't have to be my list. You don't even have to take the formal test. It's such a wonderful exercise to just do it separately and compare. And you're going to open up all kinds of new conversations.
That's good. I like that. 3. That's easy to do, right? Should be able to
Right?
spit that out without thinking very hard about it. I love that. I love that. Good information. Awesome. All right. So that was a good intro to set up our conversation today. So one of the things that you say is that many couples um, experience the priority drift. What exactly is the priority drift and how can they prevent it? Is it like the equilibrium example?
Terrific question. Yes, so when things are at equilibrium, it accounts for the priority drift. And what the priority drift is basically when priorities are not checked in on or they go unspoken, then they change over time. And sometimes they change suddenly, like the wonderful example you gave about a woman having a child. Boom, number one priority, not
Yeah.
you anymore. Now it's the child. And that's probably how it should be.
Yeah.
So
Right?
but it's easy to if that's not anticipated, if it's never talked about beforehand, and you don't ever check in on these priorities, then you're not going to know how they shift and when they do change. And so they drift gradually. Like we both start out and we both have career as a priority. We're young, we're both out of school, and then we don't check in and we think we're both going to have career as a priority permanently, but it's really going to change. All priorities change. That's the nature of them. And if we don't check in to say to check, then with small, medium, and large check-ins. So I would say a small check-in is a daily one. and it can be as little as 5 minutes, but it has to be 5 minutes of quality time. That means no devices, and that means no talking about other people, only talking about yourself and each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that kind of check in, I would encourage people to sort of ritualize in some way. It could be taking a quick walk with your partner, it could be sitting down and holding hands. My wife and I have a hot beverage ritual. So in the morning, whoever wakes up early, whoever has an easier time getting up makes the hot beverages. We sit down together, we drink them, no devices, no talking about other people, and we just check in with each other. What's important to you today? What's your priority? What do you have going on? Do you have any decisions that you're going to make?
I love that.
Right? And it's not because I'm going to make the decisions for her or vice versa. It's because if I know what's going on and what's on her mind, and everything about her day all of a sudden makes sense to me. All of her micro decisions that she makes, the fact that she skipped lunch or didn't, the fact that she's super hungry at dinner, or the fact that she's late. All of a sudden I know, well, she's dealing with this high priority. It's not neglect. She doesn't want to miss a meal with me. She doesn't want to not spend quality time with me. It's just that there's another priority right now. Maybe she's up for a promotion, or maybe she's on the verge of being fired. But I don't know. But unless we check in, then we operate under the assumption of we think we know our partner's motives. We make up these narratives, false narratives around what's going on and why. And then we have misunderstandings and miscommunications, and often resentment builds because one partner feels that the other partner isn't prioritizing them and they don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. I love that. I love that. But it also, what it does is that it shows interest, because a lot of
Yes.
what marriages happen is that people don't check in, people don't talk. you know, I have a habit of asking my husband, "How was your day?" And sometimes he gets pretty annoyed. I have the same day every day. But if I change the question, like in the morning, like, what is your priority? Then what is it that you have to do? You know what I mean? It's a different
Yes.
frame of it, right? Instead of like, how was your day? That's a really boring question too. And he says, my day is the same every day. Same job.
Yes, we go on autopilot, right?
Yes.
Everybody goes on autopilot with the questions they ask, with their routines, especially the longer you've been together. Sometimes the more you need to check in,
Mhm.
because that's what happens. Priority drift.
Right.
When the things go unspoken, then the miscommunication.
He's showing interest and he thinks it's, I don't know.
You're making a bid for connection, which is a
Yeah,
beautiful thing. But
right.
But if he doesn't have the frame that that's what you're doing, then he whiffs it. He just it's like the pitch comes in and he wasn't even at the plate. He doesn't even swing and miss. He's like oblivious to the fact that you're making a bid for connection.
Making a bitch, right?
So
Hence his.
so
I just want him to talk because he's not a big talk.
right.
But
So
right, but yeah, but you're right. If I frame it a little different, like, what's your priority at the job, or is there something that you needed to do that you know what I mean? I
do you
think
have any
you're
decision you
seeing
have to
it's a
make
different way of
today?
doing it.
Like even if the decision is what to have for lunch, that's something, you know? It doesn't have to always be a huge decision. Sometimes the decisions are small ones. And like that can be fun and light too. Everything doesn't have to be serious.
Right. And what you have for lunch is also your priority, because if you're prioritizing weight loss, or you're prioritizing health, it will come in those answers.
Yes.
So I like that. Right.
I love that. That's such a great example. When you're prioritizing nutrition and diet and wellness, then your partner needs to know that too. And
Yes.
people, they change what they're eating for different reasons all the time. They have an event coming up, they want to drop a few pounds.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't mention it. And so the partner can't understand why they don't want to get pizza tonight.
Right. Right.
Or they don't want to go out because
Couldn't
they
get
don't want to be
pizza any night.
tempted by going out. It's it's not that they don't want to spend those 2 hours at dinner together.
Right. Right.
They could spend that time doing something else other than eat.
Okay. I like that. So I can understand the priority drift, and as you were talking, I thought of one thing. When you meet, maybe you might prioritize going to school or getting an education. And as you get maybe older in a marriage, maybe you want to prioritize travel. And then your spouse is thinking, why are you spending all this money on travel? Or, you know what I mean? You're right. Or even clothes. Maybe you want to you prioritize, maybe I want to look better because I want a promotion. But it all comes down to conversation. So I love that. I love that. Like I said, as a coach, I understand that awareness is 90% of the game. And we walk around unconscious of why we're doing things, and our partner needs to know, and we need to communicate these things. Or people saying, I'm not a mind reader. You might think that I should know, but then I don't. So this is great conversations to have. And whether you check in every day or every week, I think I was reading one of the books that I love is what's it called? It's a book about uh, it's not Atomic Habits, but it's a book like that. Things you do habitually. And he's talking about, like, every week he has a check-in with his wife about what worked for them this week and what didn't work for them. Same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yes.
Love that. Yes, it's so valuable. And in the book, there's worksheets that you can use or make copies of, and just print them out, and just you can use them to check in. You can write them yourself. And we checking in weekly is amazing, and it should be done for sure. But I think people have a tendency to sort of make it a big deal or make it have to be like a grand gesture
Yeah.
instead of these small sort of rituals that are mini habits that you can build in. Like, one of the things that you mentioned that's so important is about awareness. You have to have 90% of the game's awareness, right? And so you have to have awareness before you can have alignment. So you have to know, how are you set up as a person? Where are my priorities? How am I aligned? Before you can even ask your partners and begin to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, as you're talking, my brain is going, a mile a minute about priorities. One of my personal priorities is that I walk a 5K every morning, and it's my priority. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't go to the gym, don't walk, don't do anything because they don't put that as their priority. I love that. I love it. I love it. Yes. So asking your partner, hey, you're 50 pounds overweight. Well, you don't see it like that, but you're 50 pounds overweight. What's your priority?
So we can look at the priorities. So say they rank the priorities, and health is one of the priorities, one of the 10, and say they rank it in their top three, but they're 50-pound overweight
And they don't do
or
anything
whatever the
about it.
case may be,
Right.
or maybe they're eating too much sugar and they could be diabetic or pre-diabetic or something like that. So it's about holding each other accountable. So now you could say, hey, health is a priority. Health is in your top three. How much time a week are you spending on health? And that's one of the exercises that I encourage everyone to do for themselves, is plot the time you spend hourly per week on each priority. So many people, they'll put like communication as number one. Like, how much time are you spending doing real communication, like having a real conversation on the phone, or sending a detailed email where you're communicating with someone, or having a real conversation? And they put entertainment in the bottom three. They might spend 30 hours a week swiping and mindlessly viewing content that they're not even learning from. Often they're barely even enjoying it. So it's like
It's a
habitual.
habit,
You're not right.
life habit. Yep.
Right. And so they it can be so revealing to uncover these things in yourself. And you could be like, wow, okay. I have career up here, but I only spend 45 hours a week on it, and 40 of them are mandated. So that's not really me prioritizing my career. I have 30 hours at entertainment. Maybe I could make it 50 or 60 hours per career and less entertainment, and we can recalibrate.
Wow. This is such a good conversation. But it always takes two to tango. And a lot of time we have spouses, unfortunately, that don't want to do any of the things that we like to do. So, I mean, this might fall flat. So you always have to get a buy-in. But this is great. This is the perfect way to have a great marriage, have a great relationship, understand yourself, understand your partner. But how many times, somebody is gonna say, hey, can we check in? The game is on. I gotta watch the game.
Right.
Or something along those lines. Yeah, wow.
So, like, one of the things that you can do, I think there's this concept in a relationship called parallel play, which is basically when two people do different activities, but at the same time, often in the same space, like next to each other. So you're reading a book, I'm writing, You're reading a book. I'm listening to the game, watching the game. We can be in each other's presence.
I like that.
Right. So
Okay.
we have a connection and we have that context. Like if you're upset, I know because you were upset at that play at the game. Like I heard it. If you're in the zone reading or writing, it's obvious to me that she hasn't stopped writing for the last 40 minutes. She must be on a roll. Let me not interrupt her right now. And so we're building our existing connection just by playing in parallel. And so I think that that's powerful too, just knowing what each other is doing and wanting to be around each other. Like that's really important question to ask yourself
Yeah.
and check in with yourself is how much do I want to be around my partner? Do I want to be around them more or less? Because if someone's giving you resistance to do a check-in or to take the test or just to do the top 3, like what are your top 3 priorities for this week? If they're giving you resistance, then that's a big red flag. There's something to that because they're not willing to give you a minute, 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be, and it can be gamified, right? Like you can be like, hey, here's my top 3 priorities. What are yours?
Right.
And it can even be positioned as because I want to help,
Yeah.
right? So I want to know what's important to you so that I can contribute to your vision for the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna bore it. Listen, that yes, love it. All right. Now, why is individual self-awareness such a critical component of alignment in a relationship? Now, I guess when you're doing the priority check, it reveals something to you, and they always say you've got to know yourself, right? So, is that where you're going with that one?
Exactly. Yes. You have to know yourself before you can really know someone else. If you don't know your own motives and your own even values and belief system, like many people have never checked in with their beliefs since childhood. They're just sort of memes. They're like viruses of the mind that you kind of inherit. And unless you um, learn about yourself, you can't really know someone else. So I used to teach poker for the World Poker Tour. And in poker, the whole game is uh, disguising your hand and trying to figure out what someone else's hand is. So I know what you know, and I want to make you think a certain way. And so when I used to teach poker, everybody always thinks, not always, but everybody really often thinks they know what their opponent has. They're pretty sure that that guy really has the strong hand or that they're weak, and they think that they can read their opponent really well. And that's like the default behavior of poker players is that they think they can do this well. And I'm like, okay, so if you were in that situation, what hand would you have? What are the kind of hands that you would have? What would you need to be dealt to take that same series of actions? And a lot of times they can't really come up with the answer. So it's like you don't even know what you would do in that situation, and you're telling me you're sure that you know what your opponent would do.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what people
Poker
do
is
in
a
the
good one because you're supposed to have a poker face. You're not
right.
supposed to be able to telepath what's in your hand. So if someone is saying that they know what's in your hand, I'm not sure why they would say that unless they can read the deck.
They so many people think that they can read other people well, and so they're just making assumptions. And you're not supposed to have a poker face with your primary partner. So stop doing that too if you are. Because so many people are. It's something I used to do in my relationship because you're like afraid to be vulnerable sometimes and show your true intentions. And so there can be that little obstacle of like, well, what if I share my priorities and my partner doesn't agree?
Right.
And that's why being curious is so important and asking why rather than wanting your priorities to be the same. It's about understanding what's important and why.
Yeah, it's very important. I absolutely love it because you shouldn't your opinion or and they're saying that everybody where they are is they drove there, right? And they have a different path from you. So you can't just browbeat somebody like someone would say, I don't want to have any kids. And you might say, wow, which woman don't want to have kids? But then you've got to understand that person's path, that one person's journey. And if you're a man and you meet a woman that says, I don't want to have kids, then you either have to make the decision, I want kids, so this relationship's not going to work for me, or I love her anyway, and I understand why she doesn't want to have kids. But yeah, you shouldn't try to browbeat anyone to, to your opinion, right? Because that doesn't really work either. So yeah.
Right.
But a lot of times I love the fact that you said about the poker face, because a lot of times you don't want your partner to know how you're feeling, or, so you put on that poker face and you try to make sure that they don't feel or see behind the mask, and that's usually when you're fighting or something, but I hope it's not all the time, but
And sometimes people are just get in the habit of keeping on a poker face. Maybe they have to be that way at work and they don't turn it off
they don't
when they get home.
right.
Or maybe they have to be that way at school. They have to be serious all the time. Then they're done and they stay in that mode. They don't like give themselves a reset and a recalibration for their time alone with their partner. They stay on autopilot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, relationships are difficult, and you know, I love the fact that there's so many relationship coaches out there right now that are, helping people find partners, helping people stay together, because yeah, you a lot of times the information that you pick up as children based on the partners that you saw brings you to a place where you don't even want to talk, you want to keep a poker face, you don't ask questions, you want to be a pleaser, all these different things that affect, healthy relationships. So it's good that we're, bringing this conversation to the forefront so that people can go and, make at least one or two different changes and steps. So I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, relationships, they're so often misalignment problems.
Oh, yeah.
It's like two people are using two different GPSs. One person has Apple and one person has Google, and it's not going to be the same way. And
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not even the same destination unless you check in.
Because we don't even ask for a destination. We just
Right,
wait.
right. What's your priority? I don't know. What's mine? I'm not sure either. Let's just go.
That is so good. That is so good. How many times people ask about the destination? They might ask about the destination, about the big things, but the small things, or the things that make up life on a daily basis, they don't ask our destination. Right, So that's amazing. All right. So what role does measurable data play in improving emotional connections? What does your data tell you about this, your TDS score? I'm
This
assuming
is a
that's the
great
data you're talking
question.
about.
Yes. So the data, there's two kinds of data. There's the data that you get as a result of the score, and this is an objective view of where your relationship currently stands, how aligned you are or not. And what it does is it takes emotion out of the equation. It's not saying, I feel like we're not connecting. I feel like our relationship's not a priority. I feel like you value your career too highly. It's not an I feel. It's objective. These are the things you said. These are the things I said. And now we're comparing. So you're getting true data instead of just emotions and wishy-washy sort of feelings, or even if they're good thoughts, it's not objective. It's more like opinion, and then we can have miscommunications. And here we're having a framework for discussion. So there's that kind of data, and that's very important because it gives you that feedback loop that's missing in a relationship.
Right. Right.
And then there's sort of the data that's of all the people all the couples that we've looked at, and where we can see what the findings are sort of is that there are some key priorities where if there's a huge difference, then that can be hard to reconcile. So, for example, one might be like spirituality. If you're a 1 and I'm a 10, we're going to have some big communications around this topic, because spirituality is your highest priority. That means you're probably allocating time and resources to it. Maybe you're spending time praying or meditating or doing charity work or donating things.
Right.
Right, going to church, it affects how you spend your finances. It affects so many aspects of your prioritization of day-to-day tasks. And so if I don't value spirituality at all, I at least have to know that you do. And I have to have an appreciation for that or a respect for that, because you're going to be using your resources probably for the rest of your life towards spirituality. It's not likely to change.
Right, right, right. Okay. So that's good. So let's get back to the credit score part. Is there a score that shows good, and there's a score that shows bad? What is a score? You mentioned that, in the credit area, if you've got 500 credit score, nobody wants to give you money. If you've got a 750 credit score, everybody wants to give you money. But if you go in the middle, maybe like a 640, some people will give you money. So, so what is the score that people should be worried about? I mean, you don't need to tell us because they need to get your book. But
Oh, I can tell you, it's fine.
yeah, right. Go ahead.
I'm happy to share anything. So it's a great, terrific question. So a zero, it's a score of 0 to 50. So a 0 means you have perfect alignment. We have the same exact priorities. A 50 means we're opposite in probably how we view the world. And somewhere in the middle, you start to get into the complementary range. So it's the score shows how many differences there are. So 0 differences or 50 apart differences.
Ah,
So if we're a 10, we're very aligned. We're really similar people in how we make our decisions. If we're a 40, we're probably making our decisions very differently. But that means that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to pick, a lot of easy conversations we can have to sort of reconcile each other's priorities. And what happens usually is when partners start to become aware of each other's priorities, they gradually sort of bubble up. So if something's your number 1 or number 2 and it was low for me, all of a sudden I didn't realize spirituality was number 2 for you. So even though it's low for me, all of a sudden I realize it's a value of yours, and I start making time for it, or I start creating space for you to have time for it while I plan on doing something else. Maybe I help make it a priority for you. And so maybe spirituality eventually becomes like a 6 for me when it was a 10, because I value it for you. And so priorities kind of shift in that way in couples when they share them with each other.
hmm.
So
Okay.
there's like a positive flow in alignment just by checking in.
Yeah, because it's true. If you really love your partner, then you want to make their life better and you want to contribute to their happiness. And if you know that something is a priority and you weren't paying attention to it before, once you're aware, if you continue to ignore it, then maybe that person doesn't mean as much to you as you say. But if they do, then you will probably start to shift, which is why they say that, couples become, um, I'm thinking of Jane Fonda when she said she became a chameleon.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's right. She took on the values of whoever her partner is because you kind of blend together, right? So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so celebrating your differences is such a beautiful thing, but you have to uncover them. So, like, I didn't realize growth was so important to you. I just thought you wanted to do a podcast. I didn't realize it was about this much bigger vision for your life and everything. Like, it's fundamental to who you are as a person because it's growth and it's sharing.
Right.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I just hop into the podcast world, but growth has been, my personal philosophy. It was CANI, continuous, never ending improvement. And that's part of my value.
Yes.
You're right. So, yeah, a podcast just happened to be the perfect place for me to land, right?
Yes.
Because every time I have conversations like this, I'm learning and I don't even have to read the book.
Absolutely, exactly. It's like a hack. It's a increased efficiency in your life, and you're giving back. So it's mutually beneficial and it's sustainable, which is like that's truly like the infinite game that we want to be playing. We don't want to play these finite games for these short-term wins. It's not about winning or losing, it's about continuously improving. Just like you said, I love that philosophy.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So, tell us more about the total difference score, which is the TDS framework, and its practical application. So, I think we've covered the fact that it helps, couples become more aware, understand each other, they check in. But is there any other practical applications for it other than um, uh, healthy relationships?
Yeah. So one of the things you can do with it is I give you like 10 priorities to start with. You can make your own or substitute. So it's set up for a primary relationship. So sex is one of the priorities because intimacy is obviously very important. But if you want to use it with your kids, you can just take out sex and make it school or play or sports or whatever the priority is for them. So I would encourage people to make a list of 10 priorities that are valuable in their day to day life and work with that. And you can do the total difference score. It's really easy math. You can do it in a blink and it'll reveal what's going on for you and your family members. And the same thing applies to the workplace. I know people who, when they interview, they do 10 career work priorities and they just have them rank them 1 through 10. And then they can see what the company's value priorities are and whether or not they're aligned. So a lot of companies do like mission statements and they
Right.
mention their values and things like that, but
Right.
not so much the day to day priorities. So it can be really valuable as a tool there as well.
That's good. Those are very good applications. I love it. Because yes, you need to be aware of your priorities in every aspect of your life, right? Um, because, you mentioned values earlier, that a lot of people don't even know where their values are, but you know what they do know? They know how they react, right? And they don't know why they're reacting, but they know that they're reacting because it's hardwired into them, right? So yeah, when you are understanding, your priority at work and why is it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of good to have that awareness. It's very good. And then, yeah, asking your kids, is school important or playing? They probably would never be able, depending on how old they are, be able to give an accurate because their priorities probably change every day, right?
It's funny that their kids' priorities do change all the time, but you can ask them fun things. Like you can make a list of like at any age almost. Like I was just with a 7 year old and 5 year old, my nephews, they're adorable. And I asked them like what their priorities were. So I didn't say, what are your priorities? Give me your top three or top 10. But I asked them like how they're spending their time. Like, what are you doing? And then they said, like, oh, we watched this. And then I asked them their priorities within that. So, like, okay, who's your favorite character? Or
Mhm.
which movie is your favorite of the series? So, like, Harry Potter was one of the priorities.
Okay.
Right? And so, like, okay, is it the movies or the books?
Okay. Okay.
So it was
I got you.
you
You
just
just
changed it
get
was a
them
movie,
thinking though. Yeah, you get
right?
them
So now the
thinking.
kid is making a you're sharing a decision making framework
Yes. Yes.
with someone at any age. That's all it really is. It's like just bring something to the surface.
Yeah.
And so it can be gamified and it can be really fun
Hmm.
just to know what's important to someone else. It's the truest version of learning about someone, I think.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Awesome. All right. Well, we had a really good conversation. So tell us about your book, Prioritize Us. Why did you write it? And what do you want readers to walk away with after reading?
So I wrote Prioritize Us to because it actually came out of a trying time in my life, sort of a very uh, period of sort of challenge. So my wife was having really mental health challenges, severe ones. And it's a happy story. She's doing well now and she's thriving, but she was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic.
Oh, wow.
And for years, we didn't have answers. We were looking for what was going on. We couldn't figure it out. Was it a tumor? Was it this? Was it that? Every test imaginable. And through this terrible period in our life, our relationship actually improved. Our communication got better. And the reason was because before we had different priorities. My career was up here, you know, uh, relationships, entertainment. And then when she started having health issues, all of a sudden, health,
Right.
safety,
Got to
top
the top of the
priority,
list.
right?
Right.
For both of us. So for the first time, we're completely aligned in our top priorities. And so I realized if this makes our communication so much easier, what if we look at the rest of our priorities? And so our miscommunications kind of fell to the wayside because we were on the same page. And when we examine the other life priorities, we just find more and more revealing things about us. It just makes communication so much easier because you're just numbering a list. How easy is it to come up with a list? How easy is it to number it? 10 things and then trade. It's like you can read the book and I'd love for you to get it. Absolutely. It's available on Amazon. Prioritize Us as a paperback or hardcover. You can actually get it absolutely free at nickbrancato.com. You can get the ebook and you could print out the priority list. You could print out whatever pages you want. I just want to help as many people as possible. And I just want people to have these tools to improve their relationships.
That is so noble. That is so beautiful. And yeah, you talked about prioritizing, and obviously your priority is to contribute to the world and make the world a better place by doing something that you can do. So that's amazing. I love when, I talk to people and their, their goal is to give back to the world. So that's very beautiful, Nick. Yes, like your agent sent me a beautiful hard copy book, and
Wonderful.
and I do need it.
So
I've never had the conversation once with my husband about priorities.
it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Yes, I know. I can't wait to play. So it's just great. Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for bringing this conversation to my awareness and the awareness of anyone that's listening and watching on TV. I will have a summary of my conversation with Nick on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to his book. I will link out to his website. You heard him, right? You can download a free copy of it, and download the quizzes. So, but even if you don't have that, he says that, hey, you don't need any kind of quiz to ask your partner what your top 3 priorities or what your top 10, you know what I mean? And have a conversation about that, because that opens the door for a whole bunch of conversation, right? Yes. So that's amazing. Okay. So if you didn't catch it, it's the website is nickbrancato.com, and that is Brancato. But like I said, I'll have a link to the book and link to his website on the show page. So as we wrap up, Nick, any last words?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful to have a conversation with you. And I just want everyone to remember that relationships don't have to be identical to work. They just require understanding and intentional conversations, small, meaningful adjustments. It's not about we found this out, so now we have to throw everything up in the air and change everything. If my journey with my wife taught me anything, it's that when your priorities are clear, relationships thrive even in the most difficult circumstances. So if things are good right now, they can always be better. And now is a great time to check in no matter what's going on.
Yes, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. It's true. You've got to be going in the same direction, right, Nick? And the only way you go in the same direction is if you have the same priorities. So I love it. Yes. Thank you so much. I learned a lot from our conversation, and I will definitely go and put it into practice in my own life. So you guys that are listening, I hope you took away a couple of, golden nuggets from my conversation with Nick. And yeah, there's so many people that I can think of that can use this information to make their relationship better. And I'm sure that you're one of them. So go ahead and pick up a copy of Nick's book, and connect with him. What are your social media handles? Are you in social media?
Yes, I am on Instagram at personal dev coach, like development, personal dev coach, DEV, personal dev coach on Instagram. I'm happy to talk to anyone and answer any questions. Feel free to DM me. I'd love it if you follow me, and I'd love to connect.
Yes, of course. All right. Amazing. All right. So I'll link out to your Instagram handle of that as well. And I will tag you when I do my post on this conversation. So, all right. So, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind so you can transform your life. We were talking today about your total difference score and how to use it to align love in life. Enjoy this conversation with Nick, and I hope that you will take the next step and prioritize your relationship and your conversations. Thank you, Nick, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.